In January 2025, my wife Tabby and I spent a week in the far north of Botswana to see what the Chobe National Park offers overlanders in summer. We camped at Ihaha for 3 nights where we explored the banks of the river before heading south to Savuti, where we had this lush piece of paradise all to ourselves for another 4 days. We ended the trip on the Chobe River itself, photographing wildlife and enjoying spectacular sunsets. Abundance, diversity, breathtaking scenery and plenty of action were just a few of the summertime rewards. But traveling during the rainy season was not without its risks.
It's not yet clear when operations will resume at the flooded Chobe Bridge border post.
Reports of widespread flooding.
Due to these heavy rainfalls.
Some safety tips if you are driving through wet weather conditions.
Despite torrential downpours and widespread flooding, we were able to cross into Botswana at the tiny little Stockpoort border post. Clear skies en route to Francistown quickly turned into heavy rain, giving us our first taste of what lay ahead in the coming days. So we are on the little gravel road that leads to Woodlands, where we are staying for tonight. We've done pretty well. The most important thing was crossing into Botswana, and luckily we could cross at Stockpoort, but we drove in very, very heavy rain up to Francistown. It's dry now, but we just drove past a truck that is very, very stuck, and they said we must be very careful on this last stretch to Woodlands. It was actually good for us all to get mud on our tires and to feel how our vehicles handled the wet conditions. There was no doubt about it, this was going to be an adventure. At 5:45, we pulled in at Woodlands, our first stopover of the trip. Before heading north to Elephant Sands, we quickly stopped in Francistown to stock up on some fresh meat, dairy and vegetables. Oh no! Before topping up with diesel.
Hey look, it's Byron from Wild Wild Journeys.
It's the safari expert. It was fantastic to travel with Byron and our friends Francois and Steph again, and this time Byron's girlfriend Kaylee joined as well. It's about 9:30 in the morning and we are heading north towards Nata. We stayed at Woodlands last night, had a good rest, and luckily this morning it's not raining. We ran a few errands this morning in Francistown, like having some breakfast at the Thorntree coffee shop, which I can highly recommend, and then doing shopping at Pick n Pay at the Gallo Mall, which is close by. And we also filled up with diesel and went to the loo, and now we are ready to hit the road. And we're going to pull in there at the Nata Bird Sanctuary just to see whether or not there's some water on the pans. We're a little bit unsure whether or not we can actually drive that road that leads to the little viewpoint, because there's so much water on the side of the road at the moment. So fingers crossed. And if not, we'll head straight to Elephant Sands, where we're going to spend the night. Although the Nata Bird Sanctuary was technically open, they had some bad news for us. So unfortunately, there's too much water on the little road that goes to the viewpoint here at the Nata Bird Sanctuary, but we will come past again once we're done in Chobe National Park, and maybe then we'll get to share it with you. My least favorite sound in the bush. Here goes nothing. Woo! So a small little mishap. When I got into the car to start it again, leaving the Nata Bird Sanctuary, the battery didn't want to turn over. No idea why that is, but we quickly stuck the voltmeter on, and it looks like it's not charging from the alternator. We managed to jump start it, so we're going to have a quick stop in Nata to see whether we can find a mechanic. It wasn't hard to find a mechanic, and because the battery light went off when you turned the key, he was convinced that only the battery needed replacing. This is why I drive an old cruiser. There's always a bush mechanic that can help you, and it seems like we figured it out. It was just the crank battery. It actually wasn't a big job at all. We quickly went to buy a new battery at Welcome Hardware. These friendly gentlemen changed it for us, and we're going to check whether it lasts for the rest of the trip. We would monitor the alternator and the charging levels closely, but for now, at least we could start the car. The battery still wasn't charging properly by the time we got to Elephant Sands, so the alternator had to be checked in Kasane, but that would have to wait until the following morning. Hey, bookies. Beep, beep. Just saw our first elephant crossing the tar road. So the battery issues were a little bit bigger than we thought. It doesn't look like the alternator is actually working. So the battery's charging at 12 volt when the car is switched on, which is way too low. So I've come here to a workshop in Kasane where some guys are going to remove the alternator just to see what's happened. And we've driven through so much water on the first 2 days that maybe the alternator got wet and there's just something not working in there. But hopefully we're going to find out soon enough. While the two mechanics tried to figure out the quickest way to get to Tom Cruise's alternator, Tabby got to know one of Kasane's other residents. Hi.
Best kind of friend.
What's your name?
She doesn't have a name.
Oh no.
Hi. To the mechanic. Hi. She likes the cookies.
Hi. Oh, I've got nothing for you. Bye.
Bye.
While we have some time to kill, I decided, let's make some coffee. The alternator had seen better days and was beyond repair. So Nathan, who runs the workshop, offered to help me look for a new one in town. So good news, Nathan from the workshop and I took a quick drive around town and managed to finally find a new alternator for this Prado. It was touch and go there. The first 4 stores did not have one, and if we couldn't find one in town, it meant that we would have to order one from Maun, and Tabby and I would have missed the first leg of this journey, i.e. camping at Ihaha for the next 3 nights. But we got a new one. The guys at the back are busy fitting it into the car, and hopefully we'll be on the road within that.
You can do your happy dance.
I was so happy that we had a new alternator that I didn't listen to that little voice inside that was concerned with the fact that the charging levels weren't shooting into the mid-13s immediately. Something that would come back to bite me the following day.
TIA.
TIA. Folks, we have power again. Nathan and the guys at whatever this workshop is called, the unnamed workshop
98.
here in Kasane, yeah, Workshop 98. They were absolutely amazing. Nashi, Blinds, Nathan, they just went out of their way. And I think, what were we, about 2.5 hours, under 3 hours, brand new alternator. And now we can go and fill up and go and find our friends before we go to Iaha. I quickly stopped to deflate my tires for the thick sand before joining up with the others and heading to the entrance of the Chobe National Park. Hey Kaylee, excited to be in Chobe?
I'm so excited. I've waited like 3 days for this.
Awesome. How's it, Byron?
How's it?
You ready for this?
I'm more than ready.
Awesome, man.
Let's go.
Francois, are you excited?
How low are you taking it, Francois?
Going 2.2 in the back because I'm heavy, and then probably about 2 in the front, and we'll play it from there.
With our tanks and fridges full and our tires deflated, we were ready to head to our first campsite in the Chobe National Park, Ihaha. We've arrived here at the Chobe Riverfront, and the only word that I can use to describe it is paradise. There are scores of elephants, tons of birds, flowers, butterflies, and just greenery everywhere. The most beautiful clouds as well. Our welcome here to Chobe has been nothing short of extraordinary. We've got a massive herd of elephants on our right, thunder rumbling in the distance, clouds, just the most amazing clouds, and a few very, very happy overlanders. Here comes the rain. Oh my goodness, the heavens have opened! Wow!
The road to Ihaha quickly turned into a river.
That is a crazy storm. Okay, so the road surface feels hard, but where there are pools, I'm just going to go through really slowly because we're not sure how deep the ruts are underneath.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to follow your line on the left-hand side there.
Driving in convoy in such heavy rain definitely put my mind at ease. And before we knew it, we had arrived at the entrance of our campsite.
Hey, welcome to Iaha. How was that rain, eh?
That was fun.
That was some of the most epic water driving I've done in my life.
Ihaha Campsite is run by Kwalate Safaris and would be our home for the next 3 nights.
So we have just checked in at Ihaha Campsite and we're making our way down to campsite number 2. A big shout out to Robert Hofmeyer of Moving Pictures Africa that did the lovely campsite review with his brother-in-law Andy. Love your videos and thanks for showing us which one is the best. Wow, this is a nice campsite. Woo! So as you can see, luckily we have a little bit of a break in the weather to set up our camp here at campsite number 2 at Ihaha, but it looks like there's more rain coming.
Luckily, we could hide from it under our big country ostrich wing awning. But it wasn't long before the weather cleared and we could head out on our first game drive of the trip.
It's just gone 5 o'clock and Tabby and I are heading out on our first game drive here from Ihaha Campsite. And we've been so lucky today because not only did we get the Prado's alternator fixed, or replaced in fact, but we also had a little bit of a gap in the weather to set up our campsite, which makes it a lot easier. And because it's not raining right now, we thought we would explore the little loops just west of camp. I was just saying to Tabby, I almost never want to go overlanding in winter again if you can go in summer and it looks like this. These 2 little loops we did this afternoon, just driving along the river west of Iaha, it's incredibly beautiful, and I reckon even if you don't see any big cats and you just see all the beautiful birds and a few elephants and hippos, it's worth it because you're constantly stimulated by the beauty.
We were blown away by just how beautiful this area looked in summer, and by the variety of birds and the numbers of animals that we saw on the bank of the river. We stayed out as late as we possibly could before heading back to our campsite for the first of many breathtaking sunsets on this trip. It's amazing. Last night we heard lions, hyenas and jackals calling. In fact, it was quite a commotion, and it was coming from the direction where we saw this big herd of buffalo late afternoon, so I wouldn't be surprised if they caught one of the calves. But the rest of them all came this way and then obviously found safety here just right in front of camp. But at the moment they seem to be heading back in the same direction. So we've got some lion tracks here heading east, and Byron just called in, he's got lion tracks going west. So wherever that commotion was last night, it seemed like some of the pride went east and some went west. So it looks like we're going to split up to try and find them.
No luck with these lions yet. We've been trying for about an hour, but Tabby and I lost the tracks for the big male further east of camp. Byron is on some tracks for a pride with cubbies around camp. And then Francois and Steph apparently found some more tracks on the main road. So the lions seem to be all over the place. It's nice and cool. Believe it or not, we actually have to head back to Kasane because Tom Cruiser is still not charging properly. So I just want to go back to Nathan and the guys to have the alternator rechecked, but at least we do have power and we've got a lovely game drive en route. I must be honest with you, I was a little bit concerned about two things coming to Chobe in summertime when our friends Francois and Steph invited us. First was that we wouldn't see any animals because obviously during the green season there's lots of standing water everywhere, and that means the Chobe River wouldn't attract quite as many animals. But I can tell you, we have seen so many animals. We're driving past a big troop of baboons right now. We saw lots of baboons and impala yesterday, and in fact this morning we must have passed, I think, 500 impalas at least. And there's been plenty of elephants and that big herd of buffalo around camp as well. So no doubt that there are plenty animals around. Whoa, that was a deep ditch. And that brings me to the second thing. I was a little bit concerned about water and getting stuck. Because as you saw, we had that torrential downpour yesterday afternoon. But what's amazing is because the landscape is so sandy, it's actually very easy going. Even in these areas that got as much water as it did yesterday afternoon, it's very easy to pass today. So I suppose the point I'm trying to make is you can easily come here in summer, see animals, and if you drive carefully, not get stuck. Yo, baboons everywhere.
As much as we wanted to continue our game drive, it was time to head back into Kasane and for Nathan to recheck Tom Cruiser's alternator.
Nathan is on his way to help us, and Tabby's found her friend again. Hi.
She's a sweetie pie.
How are you doing, my girl?
She's right.
Did you get a cookie?
She says, okay, I'm gonna go eat my cookie over there.
So Nathan said he's on his way, and yeah, there's not much else we can do now. We're trying to figure out why would a brand new alternator not charge the battery. But we were chatting now. Luckily we were able to do yesterday afternoon's game drive, this morning's game drive, and we're close enough to town for these kind of things to not be too stressful. But oh, here we go.
The brand new alternator wasn't charging the battery. so it had to be removed and opened up so that Nathan could figure out why it wasn't doing its job. And then his son, Mnashi, noticed something suspect.
7 hours later.
You won't believe it, Tabby and I are still stuck here in Kasane. When Nathan took out that new alternator that he put into Tom Cruiser yesterday and that gave trouble overnight, he noticed that there were actually some parts missing inside and some parts were broken as well. So all that could mean is that someone went to the same parts store, bought that alternator, and then took out the pieces that he wanted and put in the broken pieces. And the knock-on effect has meant that not only was the parts store owner embarrassed when I went back today, but poor Nathan had to come in today, he's going to have to come in tomorrow morning, and we miss a day at Iaha. So whoever did that, we're not particularly happy with you. Anyways, Nathan kindly dropped us off here at Chobe River Lodge, where Tabby and I are going to spend the night. And then the new alternator is being brought over from Maun overnight on a bus. So Nathan's going to come in tomorrow morning early, fix the Prado, and then let us know when it's ready. So next time you see us, hopefully we're back in Tom Cruiser with the working alternator.
There's a surprise. Look at that. Woohoo! We thought Nathan was going to come and pick us up in his car, and he brought Tom Cruiser. Come on! As you can see, we are back in Tom Cruiser, making our way back to Ihaha Campsite. A little bit later than expected, I must admit, but that's only because that new alternator arrived in Kazungula a lot later than expected. Poor Nathan, the mechanic, was there from 6:30 expecting it to arrive with the bus, and it only arrived around 12 o'clock. But he was very kind to fit it for us, finished around 2:15 or so, and then as you saw in the last clip, he was kind enough to actually come to Chobe River Safaris and pick us up in Tom Cruiser just to give it a quick test drive. So Nathan, again from us, thank you very much for all your effort, for you and your son. And if you guys ever need a mechanic here in Kasane to check your alternator or anything battery related, Nathan is your man. I'll leave all his details in the video description. Tabby and I quickly used the opportunity to fill up the jerry cans at the top for Savuti, to do a last little bit of shopping at ShopRite, just so that we don't have to come in tomorrow morning. Unfortunately for Francois, Steph, Byron and Kaylee, they will have to come in, and Tabby and I will use that opportunity to pack up our camp slowly, go for a final game drive, and then we head to Savuti. But for now, let's get back to our friends at our campsite in Iaha.
Overlanding is not without its challenges, but luckily there's a company that can make it as easy as possible. If you don't have your own 4x4 vehicle, but you want the adventure of a self-drive safari in the Chobe National Park, look no further than Drive Botswana. They provide fully kitted out vehicles with all the equipment needed for traveling in the bush. Whether you want the thrill of camping in the wild like we did at Ihaha, or perhaps you want to experience some of the stunning lodges located along the Chobe River, Drive Botswana can put together a personalized itinerary to suit your needs. Using their extensive knowledge of Southern Africa, they will put a full package together covering your vehicle rental, accommodation, transfers, and any activities you want to include. You'll be provided with a comprehensive handbook and detailed day-by-day directions with information on where to buy food, when to fill up with fuel, and recommendations on things to see and do along the way. If you want to focus on Botswana on your next trip, or perhaps you're looking to do a multi-country itinerary across Southern Africa, contact Drive Botswana by following the link in the video description and let them take care of your trip from start to finish.
Man, oh man, it feels great to be back in our campsite. Let's go see whether or not the others have left for game drive yet. I see no vehicles. I think they've left already.
They had indeed left for drive already, so we quickly filled up our water bottles and headed out to make up for lost time. We pulled over on the edge of camp to once again reunite with our friends and to enjoy another stunning sunset.
There are so many baboons this morning all around camp. In fact, they slept in campsite number 1 right next to us. And Tabby and I decided to come out for an early game drive while the others are still busy packing up camp, because we were able to fill up yesterday and buy our last few groceries. We have the luxury of doing this game drive this morning, but the others quickly have to nip into Kasane just to restock. So we've agreed to meet each other around 10:30, 11 o'clock at Ngoma Gate, and then we're going to head south towards Savuti, where we're going to be camping for 4 more nights. But first, Tabby and I are going to see whether we can find perhaps those wild dogs that Byron and Kaylee saw yesterday morning. What's so beautiful about this riverfront is that it's lined with the most incredible trees. Just look how beautiful it is filming these buffalo on the other side of these gigantic, I think they are jackalberry trees, I'm not 100% sure. The herd looks about 100 strong, so much smaller than the one that slept in front of camp the other night. Not sure whether they split up or maybe it's a completely different herd. At the moment, it looks like they're still on the Botswana side. It's this beautiful spot where this river kind of makes a big oxbow, and they are just on the southern side. One thing to be aware of at Ihaha is that it's not as wild and remote as other campsites in Botswana. There are a number of villages across from it on the Namibian side, and fishermen from there are often seen along the river. Unfortunately, you can also sometimes hear music coming from the villages, which can easily spoil a nice and relaxed evening in camp. But we were in heaven, watching a rare osprey devouring a tilapia it must have caught just before we found it. Considering all the car trouble we had yesterday, I'm so grateful that we had this morning to drive around Ihaha, because this is paradise. Buffalo, giraffe, zebra, baboons, fish eagles with kills, an osprey with a kill, and yellow devil's thorn flowers everywhere. I can't tell you how beautiful this place is. With our car troubles finally behind us, we tackled the sandy 2 tracks ahead of us, the only thing separating us from our next destination in Chobe National Park, Savuti. If you enjoyed our journey through Chobe and you want to join me on more epic overlanding adventures, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd consider supporting the channel on Patreon. Just like these amazing patrons, your support helps turn these trips into reality by covering the costs that make them possible. In return, you'll get awesome perks like early access and shoutouts in future videos.
Every contribution, no matter how small, makes a huge difference. To become part of the adventure, simply click on the link at the top of the video description. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next episode.